a program for CampusCT. I'm the one that really communicates with you all on a weekly basis, whether it's through social media, where we post lifestyle content all across Connecticut, or through our weekly newsletters that you receive right in your inboxes. Those really help you help show opportunities within Connecticut with Connecticut employers, including entry-level positions and internships. So really great to meet you all. Today's webinar is an interesting one. We are here with two phenomenal entrepreneurs based in Connecticut who really broke the barriers of entrepreneurship and are here to share their stories, including the successes, the challenges, and helping to work through some of those same maybe concerns that you may have about entrepreneurship, or also just share lessons that they've learned through the process that can be applied to your personal and professional development. So please feel free to share questions in the chat as we begin our discussion, or save them for the end, whether they're personal to you or not. I'm sure the panelists would be happy to answer them. So without further ado, I'm happy to welcome Leila Daneshmandi. She is the assistant professor in innovation and entrepreneurship at UConn, and also a co-founder and CEO of Encapsulate. And we're also welcoming today Mark Kilpatrick, founder of Affinity Esports and Connecticut Esports. Thank you both for joining us today. So jumping right into the first segment, we really just want to meet these entrepreneurs, learn a little bit about you, learn a little bit about your journeys and how you started it, and everything along the way. So Leila, if you don't mind, I would love for you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about you, your background, and any relevant engagements. I know you're involved with UConn, and how you've started your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, the allergies have gotten the best of me. The blossoms are coming out. So, my name is Leila Daneshmandi. I'm the co-founder and COO of Encapsulate. This is a company. It's a med tech company in cancer therapy. What we do is we take a cancer patient's cells from when they're first diagnosed with cancer. We can grow them outside the body, and then we can test all the possible chemotherapy drugs to determine which one's the most effective for a cancer patient. And so we've started the company since 2018. We've raised over $2 million. The company's in Farmington, Connecticut. It's me and my co-founder, and we have research scientists that work on the company. So it's very heavily technology, medical devices, cancer therapy based. I got involved in the company from the early days. I took a course in technology entrepreneurship at UConn. I think it's an interesting story. I literally took a course, and with my co-founder, we came up with this idea that eventually came to be Encapsulate. We went through a couple of programs at the university, and then in the state of Connecticut, and then nationally, internationally. And, this is where we are today. We're working with Harvard Healthcare and UConn Health for colorectal and pancreatic cancer patients. On the side, I'm also an assistant professor at UConn. I'm specifically in innovation entrepreneurship. I work in the College of Engineering with mostly engineers, but also business students as well. And I help empower them to think about ways that they can get involved in entrepreneurship, whether that means joining startups or launching their own companies, or just getting a sense of what it means to be an entrepreneur. And I'm also a board member at the Connecticut Invention Convention. That's also an organization in Connecticut that's dedicated to empowering kids to invent, innovate, and it's incredible being part of that community as well. It's amazing to see these kids at the age of 5 or 6, they're already building inventions. And so I'm happy to be here today. I look forward to the panel, and I look forward to hearing Mark's remarks as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that story because sometimes sometimes people think it's a whole revelation that you have, but it's could be so simple as being in a class at school and just coming up with an idea. So I just want to stay on that topic for just another second. There is an aspect of it where you're like, okay, we have this great idea along with your co-founder, but what actually made you guys want to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so in the initial stages, and I think all the entrepreneurship programs more or less will heavily focus on this, go out and talk to the people that you're trying to solve the problem for. So if it's, in our case, the patients, if it's the oncologists, if it's hospitals, go out and talk to them. If you think you have a great idea, you need to get that validation from them. It's not, I think there's this notion where there's this incredible entrepreneur, this incredible founder that's sitting in their room and they just, light bulb goes off and they have this amazing idea that's going to change the world. That rarely happens. It's more about finding the needs and understanding the problems that exist in whatever area that you're passionate about or interested in, and then creating something that is tailored to those needs. So for us, we had an idea of, okay, this is what we want to work on, but it wasn't really until we went inside hospitals and talked to oncologists and patients and pathologists that we understood what the problem really is. What is the root cause of the problem? And that's where we could actually tailor our technology to fit the needs of the existing problems. So I would definitely highlight getting out there and just talking to people, as intimidating as that may seem. It's actually exhilarating. It's very exciting to be able to hear other people's perspectives on a problem that you're working to solve.
Absolutely. In a way that's market research too, making sure your idea is going to be successful, right? Because without, an idea is great, but you need to make sure there's a need for it, as you said, which is love that you touched on that. And would you say getting out there and meeting with all these different groups of people, would you say that is like the most significant or turning point, the big turning point in your journey? Or is there something else that really set you guys up for success?
Mhm. That's a great question. I think there's so many ups and downs in the startup journey. It's hard to pinpoint exactly. I would say in the early stages, I would say probably that is one of the most significant areas to understand other people's perspectives, whether that's market research or customer discovery or, other terminologies that are used. But really go out there and talk to the person, you know. Um, and I think with a technology startup, it's a different beast compared to other startups. It takes years to even get to revenue. And so throughout the journey, there's going to be different areas that you're going to have to hit, whether it's technical development or de-risking of your technology or demonstrating the proof of concept or scaling it, manufacturing it. There's going to be different areas that are challenging. But if our audience are students that are interested in learning about entrepreneurship, I teach a course on technology, innovation, entrepreneurship. And the one thing I always try to emphasize is go out there and talk. And just a little personal thing here. So I, by nature, am an introvert. I'm not that comfortable going out and just cold emailing folks. So I know what I'm saying could be, scary for a lot of people, and it's completely okay. Um, that's also part of, the journey of being an entrepreneur, the professional development, the growth that happens. And so now it's more comfortable for me after years to just get out there and talk to people. And so I'm happy to talk more about, these aspects as well. I just realized that sometimes when we talk about this stuff, it could be intimidating for some of the folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there are a lot more introverts than we think than we think there are. So it's important to recognize that everyone has the fear of putting themselves out there. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that in your story. It's very unique and special. So thank you for doing that. Mark, if you don't mind taking some time to introduce yourself, a little bit about your business and kind of how you got started.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. And, before I do, Leila, I'll just say it's a pleasure to meet you. And it's amazing to hear what you're doing. I think I probably speak for a lot of people here. My story is going to be very different and what I'm working on, but I probably speak for a lot of people who are impacted by cancer, either directly or indirectly. So I love what you're working on. And you said another thing that I think really sets the tone for this discussion. And that's kind of like, everybody kind of looks at entrepreneurs or the success of a business and they think, oh, that light bulb probably went off, or, oh, they probably just had this ability to get there. And so kind of bringing it down to the ground floor and letting everybody know that it doesn't always work that way. And it is a process, I think can help these things seem a little more achievable to those who are getting started. So definitely appreciate those two things. So thanks for having me. My name is Mark Kilpatrick, co-founder of Affinity Esports and Connecticut Esports, two organizations alongside my wife, who is my co-founder, Emily Kilpatrick. I think in terms of background, it's important to know where I came from and what I grew up on. So I really grew up playing, doing two things that I was really passionate about. I played soccer and I played Counter-Strike. A lot of you might not know what the latter is, but it is an esport. And so I always like to define what electronic sports are. And in their most simplest form, they're competitive organized video games. And a lot of people kind of struggle with that concept. There's a lot of stigmas associated with it. So I got the pleasure of being able to grow up doing something that was largely accepted in playing soccer at a high level, even to the point where I played in college, and also playing Counter-Strike at a high level and competing and being able to understand the connection between those two spaces. I ultimately went to college to play soccer. I pursued graphic design, and I got to play soccer at the Division II level, which was an unbelievable experience. But at the time, there was really no pathway to pursue competitive gaming. It just didn't exist. And you fast forward to today and it does. And so what was really interesting is I went through my college experience, had a wonderful time. I pursued soccer. I got the opportunity to come to New York and really kind of get my first taste of entrepreneurship. I'd started some small businesses, some graphic design and branding businesses straight out of college. But I really got the opportunity coming to New York to be at the early stage of co-founding a fintech business. And I got to grow that to north of kind of 3 or 4 locations. It was a technology business like what you're working on, Leila. So I can understand the enterprise, kind of the technology side, but this was also enterprise technology and some of the challenges that come along with that. And that really gave me the opportunity to sort of understand what the ins and outs were of being involved early on in a business. And I think I fell in love with that process and just being able to build and push and push and push. But I ultimately, after almost a decade involved in that, I realized that from an industry standpoint and an alignment standpoint, that I really wanted to be doing something that more aligned with something I was really interested in, allowed me to build and work on something that paired a passion of mine with the ability to really mentor and connect with people. And so in September of 21, I had the opportunity to make that shift and co-found Affinity Esports. And what's really been amazing is that it was really the pandemic where I got the opportunity to reconnect with gaming after about 7 or 8 years away from it, and to see the progress that had happened in the industry, to realize that there was a ton of opportunity to take this really cool vehicle and way of connecting with people and use it for good. So we founded Affinity Esports in September of 21, built our first concept studio here in Newtown, Connecticut. Pretty amazingly, we've from that time we launched the physical studio in April of 22. We've connected with more than 600 people. We've had over 30 partners, and we work in more than 15 communities across Connecticut now. We're in the process of launching our second studio in Milford, Connecticut. We are expanding Newtown to more than 4,000 square feet this fall. And we have a mobile fleet of units that go out, gaming laptops and equipment that go out to help us run our courses and our competitive teams and various programs across the state. So lots of exciting things happening for us, and happy to be here and share that with you guys.
Yeah, that's a great story. I think there were so many, you answered a lot of my questions along that because sometimes it's timing, right? You went through so many different small businesses and so many different industries, design and fintech or just technology and things like that to where you are today. And again, everyone's journey looks very, very different. But I think you highlighting that post-pandemic, it was a really great time for you to start this passion project in a way, which is
Yeah.
really, that's awesome. It's brilliant. And sometimes you just gotta capitalize on those moments.
Yes, you do. And I think especially for me, the pandemic, and I think for so many people, right, was this opportunity to reset, right? Pandemic hit. I was in an industry and a business I'd been involved in for 7 or 8 years. And it literally was just starting with me starting to game again, reconnecting with something I was passionate about. And I think that paired with this desire to really kind of shift my focus and my emphasis in my life really put me on a path to it was really a 2 year journey too, just researching, just being a student of the gaming and esports industry, because I hadn't been involved in it for 10 years. And there was people that never left, right? So for me, it was paying respect to those who had stuck it out, who had built companies. And I really got my start just getting on LinkedIn and asking people if they would spend some time with me. Again, same thing Leila said, like I'm more of an extrovert, but just getting on there and being like, will you have a conversation with me? I have this concept, I have this idea, I think it's great, but I have no idea. And then just sharing it with them, and people, it was unbelievable the number of executives and senior ranking people within the gaming and esports industry that were like, yeah, I'll talk to you for 30 minutes. People didn't hesitate to sit down and talk to me about this original concept for Affinity Esports, poke holes in it, and really helped me refine that. And I owe that group of people, and it's not a small group, a lot for where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we always we tend to think that people don't have enough time to help the small guy out at that time, and you would be surprised by how many people who have made it or are further along the process than you maybe are happy to share their journeys and help you get there too. So that's awesome. I think that's a great segue into our next section is, this concept of overnight success is almost like never the case ever. And others from the outside may tend to think that it is because they just see where you are today. And so it's usually months and years of many successes and trial and error and failures all to get to where you are today. And so kind of to myth bust the overnight success, I want to talk about those different times of successes and of failures that you have both gone through in your journeys, because I think it's important to also show that you are human, but it's also important for college age students who are also going through these different struggles in their lives. They're at this point where they're asking themselves the most important questions of their lives, and sometimes that's hard to do and know where to go. So I think success is important to touch upon. So Leila, if you don't mind, I would love to hear what your greatest successes have been as an entrepreneur, and kind of if you can give us an example of how you achieved that.
Well, we're fresh off an exciting event for our company, so I'll share that as the professional success, and then maybe I'll talk about the personal aspect as well. So we recently, last week, I think it was the 21st, we sent our technology into space onto the International Space Station. And so we were down at the Kennedy Space Center and we saw the launch of Falcon 9 that actually sent the cargo, and it arrived Saturday morning. And so the purpose of that will be for us to do experiments into space and see how cancer cells in space behave in response to different chemotherapy drugs, which could, be a breakthrough for future therapy and pathways for that. So that's maybe one of the highlights of my career that just recently happened. It ties very well into the second part of your question because it took 5 years to get to that point. So when you said the ups and downs, yeah, it was 5 years in the making. A lot of, behind the scenes, you're absolutely right. We see these success stories. We don't really see what goes on behind of it. So right after the launch, we went back to the lab and started cleaning up everything because we were prepared in case the rocket didn't launch. Um, uh, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment. It's another level, right? Let's say you're working on a project during your school year and you're not sure if it's going to work well or not. Imagine just the intensity of that being 100 times of magnitude more because it's also perhaps your business, it's where your future, you've invested in this. And it's a small thing that can derail your technology or your business could also, have obviously a lot of impact on you personally. It's just, they always say it's pretty much cliche at this point, but the highs are highs, the lows are lows. That is true. I think I think it's natural. Again, probably everyone has gone through this. And in terms of the personal success, I'll again share this. I think one of the things that I'm proud of now personally is that I can be confident and say I am an entrepreneur. I think, starting out as a student, I really didn't know if I was an entrepreneur. I didn't even know really, what was happening. And just taking years to get to this point with mentors, incredible people, surrounding yourself with people. And I think we're going to talk about this more, but just, growing in your shoes and feeling comfortable. I am this is who I am, and this is the way that I approach entrepreneurship. And this is the way I approach strategy and business discussions. And, everyone's different. And I think you don't have to all be the same type of archetype to be successful in this entrepreneurship journey. There's so much uncertainty itself in this world. You're essentially creating a product for a market that your product probably doesn't even exist in this market. So you're essentially creating a new market. And so the least that you can do is at least be confident and grounded in who you are as a person. And I think that's difficult because as entrepreneurs, we're trained to take feedback from everyone and consider it. So that also personally may affect you because you're constantly listening to everyone else's feedback and you may get lost in the shuffle of, okay, what do I actually believe in that is best for my company?
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. Congratulations to you and your team. I've never heard cancer cells growing in space, so that's amazing. I love that. I love that story. I think that's great. And Mark, I would love to hear kind of what your successes have been, and kind of also how do you maintain like motivation when you're in that that flow state, and how do you make sure that that momentum is there and that you're staying on top of it and not just saying, okay, we had success, now we're going to hang out for a little while.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first thing I'll say is you've got to, for those of you who are listening, you've got to be comfortable. I love what Leila said about being comfortable with kind of who you are and finding that. And it takes time. Like, it doesn't happen. It's not like you wake up one day, you're like, I'm going to start a business, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm good. It takes time to find that comfort and really to like, I talk to a lot of people, they're like, oh, like when they're looking for advice, like it's taken me 35 years to like be comfortable and at peace with who I am and what I'm pursuing and the way that I talk about things, despite what people may have seen or what they may have thought. So it does take time. You also have to be comfortable with failure. And I think people run from it. And this goes for people that want to be entrepreneurs or don't. Like I have too many conversations about, I see too many people that try to avoid it. And I know, again, a little cliche, like we hear it all the time, like you grow through failure, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, I think you have to understand that it's going to happen. You can't avoid taking risks because of it. So get really comfortable with failure, and get comfortable just evaluating that and learning from it. For me, it's a little bit different. We started at the community. We were very community focused at first. We launched a studio in Newtown, Connecticut, and it was this is going to be our proof of concept for what we believe we can do across the state. And we see ourselves as an entry point. Yes, we use gaming and esports as a vehicle to educate. We use it as, and we do programs in content creation, so graphic design, branding, being able to speak confidently on camera. We do game creation and coding classes. So where we're actually leveraging this ability to build a game, but we're teaching and we're bringing more girls, more boys into STEM through this mechanism of building a game. And they might do anything with that, right? And then we do game-based classes as well, where we're more focused on the competitive side of it, problem solving, working together as a team. But we started with this really, really small studio concept. We wanted to prove out our revenue model. We wanted to prove out what we were going to expand on across the state. And we like to think we're an entry point for companies like Leila's. I hope a lot of people can jump and shoot for the stars in a matter of speaking, after they get started and engaged with technology earlier through a program like ours. And there's a lot of great ones out there. Success is hard for me to define because we've had a lot of amazing things that have happened. We've been able to speak and share our story at the Economic Development Summit for the state. Within 18 months of operation, we were recognized as Post-University's Partner of the Year. This was over all other industries, all other businesses. The second largest university in Connecticut was recognizing a gaming and esports company as their School of Business's Partner of the Year. Those were amazing things. We've seen our revenue increase. That's all been great. But I think the thing that for me, on a personal, but also on a business note, is that we've realized we can build a sustainable business that is a good business that does good. And that's been important for me from the very beginning. We wanted to build a business with programs that could actually change lives, could create a community, a safe space that parents, community leaders, and kids that were struggling in various areas could come together over something that they all believed in, and they could feel accepted. And once you have that space for these kids,